First up, congratulations to all the graduates last Friday night. I understand it was a very nice ceremony outside on the baseball field. 187 graduates. That's fantastic. All going off to, well, do what they're going to do. Higher education, a job, Marines, Army, Coast Guard. And also congratulations to high school junior Nikki Merrill, who won the 800-meter New England Championships over the weekend. By 2/10 of a second. Wow. So that's really close in an 800-meter. Mm-hmm. If I could now ask Mr. Ray Davies to join me up at the podium. And I will break, Ray, I gotta break out my cheaters.
Nearsighted.
Can you hold this over by Jackie? It's a proclamation of appreciation. The Portsmouth Town Council, on behalf of the citizens of the town of Portsmouth, wish to extend our thanks and appreciation to Ray Davis for his many years of dedicated public service to the town of Portsmouth. In 2004, Ray started his volunteer activities in the town of Portsmouth when he joined the Juvenile Hearing Board. From there, he became a group facilitator for the Portsmouth Parents Group. In 2012, Ray became the coordinator for the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition. He worked closely with the schools, the police, volunteers, town, state, federal partners to create and manage effective prevention strategies for the town. Ray added to his roles when he also became the assistant director of the Newport County Prevention Coalition in 2017. Over the years, Ray has received several awards for his community service deeds, including Men Who Make a Difference Award from the Women's Resource Center. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the town council for the town of Portsmouth, not only for itself, but on behalf of the citizens of the community, salute Ray Davis on the occasion of his retirement. You're not really retiring. No. From his active role, let's change that, from his active role as leader of the Prevention Coalition from the town of Portsmouth, and order this proclamation presented on the 11th day of June, 2018. So what the proclamation doesn't say is the countless hours that Ray has put in to help find further funding to help establish even greater prevention programs for our kids. As we've seen over the course of the years, drug abuse and drug problems are not just an issue for the inner cities. And we do have issues here in Portsmouth, and the work that Ray does and the Prevention Coalition in getting out in front of it with our schools and with the community have had a great effect. And I know Ray is stepping down as chairman, but I know he's really not going too far away. So Mary Ann won't let him. So congratulations, sir. And
Thank you very much.
I know Senator Seveny has a proclamation for you as well. And if anybody else wants to say anything on the council, feel free. So you get to keep that.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm here. I've got a Senate citation just recognizing Ray. But I'd just like to start by saying that over the years, Ray and I have become good friends, and I will certainly miss his everyday presence in the prevention community locally here in Portsmouth. Like President Hamilton was saying, he's not going too far. He's going to stick with the regional coalition, and I guess we'll be playing some music at night too. Huh? So anyway, the state of Rhode Island certainly wants to recognize Ray with a Senate citation. Be it hereby known to all that the Rhode Island State Senate hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Raymond D. Davis, B.S., CPSS. I forget what that means.
Certified Prevention Specialist, and BS means several things.
Yeah. Yeah. But what it really means is that there's not too many people with these kinds of qualifications, and we do want to keep you close. 20 years dedicated service to the community, to the schools, to the youth of Portsmouth. Your leadership as a chair and a coordinator of the Portsmouth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition made a significant impact on the health and well-being of our community. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for your continued good fortune. and that's was proposed on the 5th day of June on the floor of the Senate in the State House, Providence, Rhode Island. Signed by me, signed by the President of the Senate and the Majority Leader of the Senate. Ray?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One other person would like to say a few words, I believe. Mary Ann, did you want to say a few words or no? No? Oh. Somebody just whispered in my ear that you did want to. She's fired now.
Well, I don't want to say a few words because we're going to miss Ray. You know, I'm really grateful for all the years of service that Ray has given to the coalition, and just for all the time that, you know, we've spent together and all the work that we've done, and it's going to be a lot different without you. I'm going to miss you, but I know you'll still be around, and I'm actually the chairperson for the Newport County Regional Coalition, so I'll still be seeing Ray around. But anyway.
So don't go changing your phone number, Ray. Absolutely, you may.
First of all, thank you all for this honor, and thank you, Mr. Seveny. I told my mother I was getting a citation, and she said, "What did you do now?"
Not worth any money, so.
I'm used to that. I want to thank the Town Council for the support that you have given to the Portsmouth Prevention Coalition, because if you had not, we would have been gone. And I mean that. When we came to you and the school committee and said, we don't have any money to be able to do anything, and you helped us out, and you continue to do that. That's what's kept us going. And I'd like to say that in all my professional career, I've worked with many volunteer groups. I've never worked with someone like Mary Ann Ramo, who is a volunteer, who has been the chair. I couldn't have accomplished anything without her. And I think the world of Mary Ann and her family for everything that they've done for prevention and everything she did for me. I think you also need to remember that all the people on the coalition here in Portsmouth are all volunteers, every one of them. And we have probably one of the strongest coalitions in the state of Rhode Island. And I'm very proud to have worked with them over the years. And I know they'll continue to do that. I think that we have accomplished a lot in the last 7.5 years, and I mean we, all of us, well, me. It was with this community. I had great cooperation from the police department, from the fire department, from the clerks, from everybody in town hall, and from this body as well. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Larry as well. And that's what makes prevention work. That's what the job of a prevention specialist is to work within the community. And my wife and I chose to live in Portsmouth, and we've been here quite a while, and we love this town. And we have a serious substance abuse problem, just as every town in Rhode Island does. And we need to continue to direct our efforts towards the best ways that we can to try and prevent kids from getting into a situation they can't get out of. And we've got a lot of work to do, and I'll continue to do that through the county coalition, and I will always be an advocate for Portsmouth. I think, I don't know if you all knew this or not, but Portsmouth, Tiverton, and Little Compton together applied for a community overdose community plan grant that came from the Department of Health, BHDDH, and the Governor's Office. We were awarded that grant, and the check was sent to Portsmouth on Friday for $5,000 to begin the implementation of that program, which was working with the fire department, the faith community, the recovery community as well. And we've been highlighted as one of the premier plans that the state's going to look at possibly replicating throughout the state. In addition to that, the county coalition was awarded a $10,000 grant from the Rhode Island Foundation for our faith initiative, and we are planning a faith forum on how to work with prevention coalitions for the entire county in the fall. So we'll continue to be doing things that will definitely affect Portsmouth for the better. But I want to thank you all. I know I've sat through council meetings and everybody's coming up asking for money, but I can assure you this, that every cent that the Prevention Coalition got was spent exactly the way it was supposed to be spent. And I thank you all for this, and I'm not going away, but I'm just changing horses. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
All right, next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there any questions on the bills? Mr. Gleason.
I just have one question. I don't see Brian here. I looked at the bill for the mutton mitts, and something was askew there. It's $900 for mutton mitts and $142 to ship them to us. There's got to be a better way to do business. I was told that the mutton mitts are very expensive now. Now I can see that they are. I don't know what kind of quantity that is, but it's on page 3, Mr. Rayner. Just if you could just question that. Seems like a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure the shipping is that high, but
Okay.
I'll send them out.
Sorry, it's a small potato, but they all add up. Thank you.
Do you know what the quantity is?
It's 900, right? Is that what you just said, Dave?
No, how many minutes we bought?
No, it's $900, but we wanted to know
gotta be-
what the quantity, what do you get for $900? How many do you get?
Hey.
I talked to them about this today. I think it's 20,000 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it comes on a truck, a freight, a pallet or something like that.
Any other questions? Motion to receive and place on file?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Next up, sitting as the Board of License Commissioners, we have an annual peddler's license for Open Season Catering, LLC, doing business as Open Season at 125 DuPont Drive in Providence.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have 2 peddlers' license for the Portsmouth Invitational Soccer Tournament at Garden 70 Sports Complex from June 15th to the 17th. One is for the Portsmouth Youth Soccer Association, Scott Hubble, and one is for Binge Barbecue LLC, doing business as Binge Barbecue in Newport.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have an entertainment license for the same event from June 15th through the 17th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have an entertainment license for the Portsmouth Portuguese American Citizens Club at 35 Power Street for their annual St. Anthony's Festival, July 12th through the 15th, with a fee waiver request.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And a victualler's license for the same event for the Portsmouth Portuguese American Citizens Club.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And an annual victualler's license for Nicole Alio, doing business as Portsmouth Nutrition Zone at 3001 East Main Road, Unit 4.
Motion to approve?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those, as the Board of License Commissioners.
Board of License
There
Commissioners.
we go, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I was ready to leave the room.
Yeah. Motion passes 7-0. Trying to shorten the meeting on us. We have minutes to approve from the Town Council meeting of 5/14/18 and also from the Town Council meeting of 5/29/18. Any questions on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Ms. Pedro?
Discussion.
Yeah, I do. I don't have a question, I just want clarification. Page 5. Page 5?
Which day?
Oh, I'm sorry. May 14th. And newbie 6, ground maintenance service contract. I just want it to be clarified that I was in dissent because the motion did not stipulate where the money would be moved from. If you could just insert that, thank you.
Motion to accept the amendment.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? That's okay? All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now in the main motion to approve both minutes from 5:14 and 5:29. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. No tax vouchers this evening. We have the town administrator's report. Mr. Rayner.
Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. With respect to the LED street lighting project, we're currently displaying an information exhibit out in the foyer. It'll be out there until the 22nd during business hours to inform people of our efforts to upgrade the street light and also solicit opinions as to what type of light people prefer. Additionally, representatives from Prism will host from Prism, the Partnership for Rhode Island Streetlight Management, will host a public forum here in the chamber on Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30, or as long as it takes. The forum is designed to provide public information and answer any questions people may have regarding streetlights, LED streetlights, and the project. This has been announced in the papers and also via the press release and on our website. With respect to the America the Beautiful grant, we have completed the America the Beautiful grant planting for this year. DPW planted 11 trees at Portsmouth High School and 4 along Patriots Drive. They also planted 5 trees at the middle school, and I'd especially like to thank the crew at DPW, Scott Wheeler, our chair of the tree commission, Matt Murphy, our school facility manager, and Jean Paul Arsenault, the high school science and student activities coordinator, for their work in making this grant happen. And lastly, with respect to police construction, for this period, milestones, masonry, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing construction is ongoing. Roof trusses were installed. The beginning of the installation of the roof trusses began last week and will wrap up this week. With respect to the potential mason strike, they settled their union dispute and they will not go on strike. The project is now about 37% complete and remains within budget, and the new building is still on track for substantial completion on time in October. That concludes, Mr. President.
Any questions for Mr. Rayner? Ms. Bader.
Could you repeat, I have a couple of questions. Could you repeat the date for the public forum for the LED?
Correct. Sure, that's Thursday.
This Thursday
This
coming?
Thursday, June 14th, here in the chamber, and it begins at 5:30.
5:30. And I was driving by the Aquidneck Island Christian Academy today, and I noticed it was empty, so they're out, right?
They're out at the end of the month.
Oh, okay, so they're moving out. So do you have any plans to put out an RFP or a request for information for other entities that may want to
Yes, we've
have
already had
proposals?
Yes, we do. We've already had a number of people tour the site, and we will issue an RFP here shortly. We had one solidly, that has not come to fruition, so we will go out.
One solidly what? One solid RFP?
Now, there was somebody interested in coming in and operating another school, but that didn't.
Oh. So you will be putting out a request for information or an RFP? Okay, thank you. I'd like to see that when you get it.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir. Next up, we have some removals, resignations, and appointments. We have a request for removal of Mr. Ferrera from the Juvenile Hearing Board.
Motion to accept with regret John Ferrera's resignation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And we have an appointment for the Glen Manor House.
motion to approve Patty Cofield.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Old business number 1, Mr. Kessin, discussion action on the police station capital project. You asked for some further information that Mr. Rayner has
Has
provided.
given, and we've put it in the council packet for backup for everybody to see.
Okay.
If you looked at the backup, we're $2.5 million through the program. I think you reported last council meeting. And so we heard tonight, we're at 30-something%. I just wrote it down. 37, I was thinking it was 30. We've got $7 million left to spend. And we are down to where we only have, if you look at AGM's paperwork in the background, $151,449 left in overall project contingency. The reason I put this on is just so that we would have some sort of financial report on this police station build cycle. So I'd like to make a motion to receive and place this on file. And with that, we would have a formal report from Mr. Rayner. We tried to get monthly, and I'll end it with there. That's the motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Thank you.
Ms. Bader?
Oh, I'm all set. I
Okay.
just wanted to
Okay.
make sure everybody-
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay.
So that we second for discussion. So now we have a motion on the floor to have a monthly financial from the builder and the AGM, our agent. Mr. Rayner and I wrestled with this last week about trying to get the 3 builders here, or the 3 businesses to come back and report to the council where we were. Although I believe this project can be on time, can be on budget, with only $151,000 left, there are definitely some challenges. And to extrapolate some numbers, we had $180,000 that was for detention cells, and it looked like that number came in at $236,000. Correct. There was a cost growth there. There's been other cost growths in these change orders, and because of the not having contingencies, it turns out that we're deleting some brick pavers, we're deleting some windows, we're deleting some railing changes, and there's some vinyl substitution in order to be able to fund some of these change orders. That's great that we're still on schedule, and that's all I wanted to say, and it's great that we have this money left in this contingency, because there's still a lot of money left to go. I'm ready for a motion if anybody...
Well, you already made the motion, but...
I know, but I mean, a vote on the motion, or any questions from anybody else, Mr. President.
Anybody else have any questions on the report?
Just for clarification, what was it we're going to get every month?
Just this basic
Just
thing?
the same
This financial package once a month, it's a $10 million project, it's half of our budget, and I think that we ought to have a financial report once a month. I was hoping Mr. Rayner could get the principals in to talk to us. They had no problem saying they would talk to us when we offered an $8.3 million contract. I don't think that's free's not the case anymore. I get that. But I think we need a report once a month.
Sure. So you want the first meeting of every month? You just...
It can be the first meeting of every month, have the financials, if that's doable. I don't see that that's a problem, because AGM does it probably twice a month, right?
Exactly. I mean,
this has obviously consumed my life, so I don't think anybody is more aware of the constraints on this project than me or the man sitting behind me. Be happy to provide this information as often as you need.
Any further questions? No. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have new business, discussion and action, request permission to hold a small procession on Saturday, July 14th from 6 p.m. and a larger procession on Sunday, July 15th from 10 p.m. to commemorate the 90th annual St. Anthony's Feast. Invitation to the council to take part in Sunday's procession as well.
And that should be 18, right?
Which one?
It says July 20th, 2008.
Okay. Oh, on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because we missed that one.
yeah.
Move to approve.
Second?
Chief, you're all set with this?
Yeah, I signed off on the permit a while ago.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Oh,
good.
I'm not pushing it, but I'm not.
I don't think, I would bet that 70% of the members at the Portuguese Club are not Portuguese.
I wouldn't say that, but
Well, or 70 might be high, maybe 50-50. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a request for an advisory opinion from the planning board from the zoning map. Mr. Galvin, changes to good old Borden Farm. You're just requesting an advisory opinion from the zoning board.
Yes, Mr. President, Neil Galvin for the owners. We realize we'll be presenting a more fuller presentation to you at a future date, but it's all subject to the planning board providing advice as well as the zoning board. So we'll reserve on that unless anyone had any questions this evening as to the background, but we'll present a much fuller presentation and information for your consideration subsequently.
Mr. Kessler?
thank you, Mr. President. So this is this, when I read this, I thought we were asking for a date. This is just an informational?
Well, I'm not sure if you're able to set a date until you get the advice from the planning board. We're seeking to meet with them this week, and hopefully we'll get reached, and hopefully we'll have that advice. We're also going to be going before the zoning board for some regulatory relief in connection with it. I don't know if you need that to be completed before you actually take your action on the zoning amendment, but I'm not sure if you're in a position yet to schedule that date, but I defer to the clerk on
Chicken
that.
and egg, isn't it?
Yeah,
We have to put advisory to the planning comes back and says yes or no, then we can put it out for public hearing, and then
and the planning board could take a few meetings, so there's really no reason for us to set any date at this point until they're done.
Yeah, I think my suspicion is, once you get that back from them, at your subsequent meeting, you could probably set a date
Yeah.
at that point and do the advertising, so we'll have a definitive date
Okay.
after the planning board finishes its work.
So you're going to put this back on the agenda when you have the approval from the planning board and the zoning board, right?
Yeah, at least from the planning. We may not need the zoning to schedule the hearing for the zone change, but we do need the planning. So I think once we know they're done, we could ask you at your next meeting after that to set a date for the public hearing.
You wanted to take one day off in August?
Well, the planning board, if they happen to get through it, I would venture to guess it'll take them a couple meetings to wrestle with it. I don't know. Sometimes.
I think it might be just the first meeting, but you just can't count on it.
No. And then, yeah, we usually take the one meeting off and over. I mean, how rushed are you to get this? No rush. So if this was done at the end of August or the beginning of September, really,
He only has one good leg to stand on.
it's not even. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much.
So, I guess the motion needed to be to forward this to the planning board for an advisory opinion at this point.
Okay,
right?
so moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0? Okay. The hand went up late. Next up, we have a request to approval, abate all 2006 delinquent taxes in the amount of $11,829.44. Matt, you have done your best. We're never going to get these, and they've gone past their date.
Good evening. Yes, Rhode Island General Law 9-1-13, the statute of limitations basically runs out. These are predominantly motor vehicle and tangible accounts. They've gone to collection agency. We've tried to litigate in certain cases, and they're either out of business, dead, or we can't find them.
So,
Or both.
You know what?
Not necessarily in that order.
Ms. Pedro?
That was going to be my question, because I see people on here that I know. Because I always go through these things to make sure that
Yeah.
when I approve them, I don't, like
one of them swapped towns.
well, I know somebody that's still here in town. So I don't understand how they couldn't get collected.
Pardon?
I don't understand how they couldn't get collected if they're still here in town. They're not dead, they're not gone.
If they change towns, if it's a motor vehicle,
They're not, they're here in town. That's what I'm saying. But I don't understand.
we go through them, collection agency runs trace, skip scans on them. If you have any information on them, we'll gladly take it and pursue.
I mean, it's only in some instances, it's $4,
Yeah.
some instances, it's $62, but...
Yeah, but still, I just wonder how this gets beyond the statute. I don't know. So you just refer it to an agency and,
After so many years, we send it off. Now, 2006 was, since I've been here, it was 3 years ago, we employed a different collection agency. Between us employing that collection agency and the previous collection agency,
oh, okay,
There
so this
was,
was from the previous collection agency.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Motion to accept Mr. Helfand's request for approval.
Seconded.
Any further questions? All those in,
And it's to write off the
11,000.
11 Does that need to be in the motion?
$11,829.44. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I know some people on here.
As Matt has mentioned, get him an address.
Go knock on the door.
Motion passes 601.
Thank you.
New business number 4. Thank you, Matt. Draft a resolution to the General Assembly with copies of the delegation regarding certain language in Rhode Island General Law, Title 44, Revision 3, yearly property evaluations to be changed as needed for clarification and effectiveness. Mr. Gleason.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We all know, maybe the public doesn't know, that there was a lawsuit for many years, I should say, against the town of Portsmouth from a collective of homeowners down the Carnegie Abbey area that we appealed after losing the initial round, and it went to the Rhode Island Supreme Court, and we found out, I guess, end of April, early May, that they had ruled against the town. And looking through the paperwork here, the legal paperwork, it points out that there are ambiguities, that's the right word for it?
Ambiguities.
Ambiguities. And
That's right up
in
there
the,
with
in the
prison and
language.
prison. There you
That's
go.
a tongue twister.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing, it's conflicting in language, and essentially the request is to put together a resolution to send to our General Assembly asking them to fix this problem so other towns aren't affected by it. The resolution put together by Mr. Gavin is very detailed and satisfactory to myself. I think the crux of it is that it shows that, therefore, be it resolved that the Portsmouth Town Council hereby urges the Rhode Island General Assembly to draft, introduce, and pass legislation to amend the provisions of Chapter 5 of Title 44 as necessary to address the ambiguities, and it's easier when you see it on paper, noted by the Supreme Court in Falmouth, in order to provide with clarity that real estate property taxpayers are not entitled to appeal the valuation of their property each year, but may only challenge the value in the year of the last update or revaluation, as indicated in the 2001 amendments to 44.515 and 44.526. I think you're on that. You work for the General Assembly as a legal counsel yourself? Part-time. Maybe it's not going to happen this year, but I think the point is to try and get it up while we have this current General Assembly in session. So I hope for your support on this.
Absolutely. Anybody have questions on this?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Bader?
I just want to say it's great work, and I think that the resolution explains very clearly as to what happened, and I think it's great. I think it's a good resolution.
And we may not be the only community that suffers from this
Absolutely.
ambiguity.
And it will explain to the other communities what could happen, or what did happen to us at least, and what could happen to them.
Should we be sending a copy of this resolution around to the other municipalities in the state?
That's usually included.
They're on the hook, they're all on the hook.
Yeah, it's included in it. He's covered all the bases.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. New business number 5, discussion and action. Should the town of Portsmouth include a ballot question for the November 18 election, approval or disapproval of an amendment to the Portsmouth Home Rule Charter allowing for nonpartisan elections in the town of Portsmouth? Mrs. Harding. You want to start, Jackie?
Nope.
No?
I'll listen. Well,
You're just putting
for the
stuff down?
discussion?
Yeah. Well, Connie's up first.
Oh.
Just real quick.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Connie Harding, 884 Union Street. Thank you for giving me the time to discuss this. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your service. I know how much this takes out of you and the time and commitment to be on the council. As you all know, there was a Charter Review Committee back in 2011, and I was on that committee, as well as 34 other residents representing different groups. Husbands, wives, siblings, family units were represented. I actually have a list here. I don't know if you can pass these down. Just a list of who was on the Charter Review a few years ago. Husbands, wives, siblings, family units were represented. If you go down the list, you can see for yourself. This really impacted how votes were taken. The town council president at the time, Mr. Dennis Canario, was quoted in the Portsmouth Patch as saying, "Let them all apply. Everyone, I'm sure, has their own agenda." I say, give everyone a shot. I sat in every one of the Charter Review meetings, and I remember the discussion of nonpartisan elections. However, I don't remember the Hatch Act ever being brought up. I do remember a member of the committee bringing up that she likes to know what brand she votes for and was not in favor of nonpartisan elections. I want to assure folks that whatever brand you vote for, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Cool Moose, this is all still part of the voting process. It just means the brand will not be listed on the ballot next to your name or next to the candidate. There's an ad in today's paper for the Middletown Democratic Town Committee looking for candidates. They are a nonpartisan town. They don't have names, a Democrat or Republican next to the names, but they still recruit candidates. Middletown is now nonpartisan. I had a happenstance incident during the last election, which is the reason I stand before you tonight. I had a nice conversation with a fresh-faced rookie candidate running for office in Newport. She said she wouldn't be able to run for office in Portsmouth because she works for a government contractor, and due to our partisan elections and the Hatch Act, she would not be allowed to participate. The voters of Newport voted her in at the last election, and they have a new candidate with fresh ideas. For the record, there's no one that I am doing this for. There's no party or special interest group that I'm standing here for. As a taxpayer and citizen, I believe with my whole heart that if someone wants to run, they should be able to run, and having nonpartisan elections in Portsmouth allows for that. And as far as the timing of this all coming up, I thought about this. It really bothered me for the past 2 years that not everyone can run, but It's reading in the paper the last few months about charters in Tiverton and Middletown, and I just thought, this is the time. I remember about a year ago, someone said, they'd never let that happen. They'd never call for a special election. Has to be on a ballot that's already out there. I believe with my whole heart that if someone wants to run, they should be able to run, and having nonpartisan elections in Portsmouth allows for that. This is about doing the right thing for the community and taxpayers as a whole. We deserve to not only have the broadest amount of candidates running for office, we also deserve to have the entire electorate, having problems with words too, electorate voting on this fall. Everyone should be invited to the table to vote on this fall, whether or not they want nonpartisan elections in town. Thank you. Oh, I also have some names, very small sample of people that are for having this on the ballot in the fall. And if you want to see them, you can pass these on too. There's a few papers I didn't get a chance to get copied. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Connie?
I'd just like to ask, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened in the original charter review, but, I mean, we're scheduled for charter review in 2019. Like, we have a charter review committee set for next year.
8 years? I think
I think 2019 is,
Okay.
So, I mean, you don't think that this could wait to go before the charter review committee?
I was because I was a part of the last charter review.
Yeah.
If you all want to be in that process and eliminating family members and having a, 8-member, I don't know, it just didn't happen last time. Hate to see the same insanity happening, every year. I don't know. I just think you throw it out to the voters. It may get squashed.
No, absolutely. I'm just, I mean, we have a charter review scheduled for next year, so I'm just curious as to, I mean, if the charter review were to occur next year, and I'm not saying I'm for this or against it, but, I mean, we're talking about potentially changing our charter to allow other folks in for the election. Typically, when we've addressed other issues in the town with changing rules, there's usually committees involved. The committees make a recommendation back to the council. So I'm just curious as to why this couldn't just go before our potential charter review committee next year.
This is the first I heard it was next year, because I see that all those charter questions came up in 2012, so that was 6 years ago. The new charter came forth in 2012, so that was 6 years ago in my math.
I believe the goal was to cycle it up for every 10 years, so you would start the odd year before, so 19 would do it in 20, and then 29 would do it, because it had been so long prior to that there was a charter review. I think there was a good amount of time in between the last one and the previous one.
Like I said, I just think everyone should be invited to the table, and the sooner the better. And I don't believe everything. I'm not sure about the town clerk question last year. If that wasn't discussed in the charter, I think a committee or a consultant came forward and said this should go on the ballot. I mean,
You're correct. You're correct.
So, anyway, but I just feel strongly about this. I have friends in the room that are against me, and that's fine. I just feel like everyone should be invited to the table, and it should be fair for everyone. So I really appreciate your time, and this is nothing against what you folks are doing. It's the state of Rhode Island and the way the country is going. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie.
Jacqueline Schultz, 15 Peleg Road, Registrar of Voters for the town of Portsmouth. I want to start by thanking Mr. President and esteemed members of the council for hearing me out. I am speaking on behalf of the Board of Canvassers. We do not have any position on nonpartisan elections. We feel that the information there is not clear enough, and we would love to have more inquiry done into this subject. But as someone who has sat in these chambers and witnessed the care, consideration, and scrutiny that this council has requested for all of the issues that have arisen for our community, such as our trash disposal, which involved several surveys and public hearings, single-use plastic bags, where workshops were held to discuss this issue. And even right now, citizens are able to give their opinion on the intensity of the LED lights, because there's a box here soliciting their opinion. The Board of Canvassers is concerned that this issue, with regards, that speaks to the core value of how our citizens choose members of our governing body, is not being given the same forum that those issues have been given. And we respectfully request that this be considered for review of the charter review, in addition to many other election laws that are out there that would enhance the quality of the support that our elected officials receive from all members of our community. Again, we have no position on nonpartisan elections versus partisan elections. The concern is the process, the ability to have the conversations that are needed before a vote be taken by this council. Another aspect is that if there is this concern in the public and signatures are being collected and this does not meet the time limit and be on the Secretary of State's desk at 4 p.m. on August 4th, it will call forth a special election. And on Wednesday, we will be going over our budget. And you can look on page 39, I think it is, my canvassing budget. There is no funding for a special election in FY 2019. So I ask that this very important decision be considered by the Charter Review Commission, and that you, if Connie has mentioned that that commission was unmanageable, set ground rules for the Charter Commission right now. Try to establish how many members you wish to have on it, and start soliciting members right now who would like to be on that Charter Commission. But please, do not take action on this without the considerable forum that you have given all of the other issues that this town has faced. I thank you very much for your time.
So is it your thought process that there's not enough time to put a question together and get it on the ballot within the next 6 weeks?
My question is not about the ballot. My question is concerned with the information out there for the voters. This has to go to the General Assembly. It is June 11th. They will convene until June 30th. After that budget is set, that's it. This would be rushed. And rushing things has never been favorable for anyone, especially when it comes to governing.
So, it's your opinion that we have to have permission to put a question on the ballot from the General Assembly?
No,
Okay.
that is entirely within your purview, sir. What I'm asking for is the consideration to be given and the information be held out there so that you can feel out the community. For example, if I sent an email to, say, Mr. Kessin, and said, I think we should have a casino at the Glen Manor House, and I would give him a ballot because Tiverton voted for it, and they voted for it, and they approved it by 57% of their vote. That's not enough information for you to make a decision, because the Glen Manor House is a core value. It's something that is valuable to us here in Portsmouth. And what voters do in Tiverton or what voters do in Middletown can be completely separate. You need to talk to the people of Portsmouth and find out where they stand. Again, it is within your purview to determine what goes on the ballot and what doesn't. And as a Board of Canvasser, I will work with you, and we will work with whatever election laws are stated in the charter and try and treat our candidates. I know what you go through to run for office. I'm here to support you. As a matter of fact, on Thursday night, I'm having a candidate and voter forum to help anybody with the process of running for office. So this is what I respectfully request, that you refrain from taking a vote on placing this on the November ballot and give it the due consideration that it deserves.
Mr. Ryan?
Thanks, Jackie. This is a fairly major change to the way we do elections in Portsmouth, and to do it with, without knowing the predictable consequences, I think may be unwise. It may well be that when you open the electoral process up to no parties participating, or at least no R's and D's next to the name, maybe more people will run, but maybe they won't. We don't know. We've heard sort of secondhand from Middletown that actually fewer people have stepped up to run for office this electoral cycle. Parties do serve a purpose. They provide information, they provide support, they provide some financial help to people who are running for office, which otherwise is onerous and involved and complicated. Knowing when to file, how to file, helping you with mailers, things like that. The parties are able to do that, and if we remove their influence and participation in the elections, it may actually discourage people from running. I don't know. But I think it's a major enough change that I echo Jackie's concern that we should probably look into this a little bit, maybe query Middletown, how it's doing. I mean, we certainly waited to see how Middletown and Newport were affected by their plastic bag ban before we took action. I think our elections are probably just as important in some ways as plastic bags, and we should not make major changes. Just saying. We should maybe not make major changes to how we do that without looking into it a little bit more carefully. So I would like to make a motion, actually, that we refer this question to the Charter Review Commission for their advice and for some background research, and get back to us with their recommendations.
Second that motion with the discussion.
I don't think we have a charter review committee. That would be the only question.
We don't have one yet, so.
We will next year.
To the
So your motion
future.
is to put it off till 2019?
Yeah, basically when the Charter Review Commission is up and running, to task them with actually doing some research into this and see, does it work as advertised? Is it an improvement? Is it not an improvement? I think we ought to know that before we give it to the people to decide on. I mean, giving them a flat question with very little background, I'm not sure how helpful that is. It's sort of like saying, you can have what's in my right hand or you can have what's in my left hand. I'm not going to tell you what's in my hands. It's complicated. People are busy. They're working, they have their lives, they're running around to soccer games with their kids. Again, trying to get it's easy to keep track of national politics because you can't get away from it. But to actually be knowledgeable of what's happening in the town, you actually have to make an effort to do that. And I think a lot of people are too busy to do that. So when we take away information, and admittedly an R and a D next to your name is not a lot of information, but it's some information. And to take that away and give them no other additional information, I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. I'd like somebody who actually has the time to look at this question, find out what's going on in Middletown, find out what's going on in other communities that have done this. How has it affected their elections? How has it affected participation? Because obviously what we want is the maximum participation in a democracy. We are a representative democracy. The foundation of that hinges on people getting involved. But I think before we change how we do things in Portsmouth, we should know whether this change accomplishes that or not.
Okay. Mr. Gleason?
Just a couple comments. Connie asked me if I would put this on the agenda. I kind of co-anchored this thing, and I served on that Charter Review Committee. And unfortunately, with the Charter Review Committee, we may never, ever get the opportunity to go into the ballot and decide this question, because it's always been a political football between Democrats and Republicans that don't want to see this. Frankly, there was a general attitude of, at the time, we on the committee know more than the voters do, and we're the ones that are making the decision. And that's sadly the impression that I had to live with. I agree wholeheartedly with Jackie from the standpoint that people need to have information, but the point of this being put on here as discussion and action would be to have a motion that potentially 4 people, 5, 6, or 7 could approve, and then we could move forward with those information sessions. We have the time to do that. Frankly, when I was on that committee, nobody came before us from the town of Middletown or Newport. Nobody asked those questions to find out whether, that's the right way to go or not. So it is kind of a, those decisions at that time were made without that kind of information. In this particular case, there's time to bring those people forward if somebody thought there was any benefit to do that. Myself, being unaffiliated, I am burdened with having to raise my own campaign, and I do it for less than $200. I have to file my own paperwork. It'd be nice if somebody was doing that for me, but it's not rocket scientist work. It is tedious. I mean, other people could do it. You could do it. Being a Democrat or Republican, we're not taking the titles away from anybody. It's just the ballot appears differently. And due to that difference, these antiquated laws that have been on the books, the Hatch Act is probably from the 40s, I would suspect. I'd love to be able to just say, hey, let's just ban the Hatch Act, and that problem would go away, but that's not going to happen. So in the town of Portsmouth, this just gives the people the opportunity to say yay or nay that I want to go nonpartisan. It would also be I'm sure it would be a hot topic for discussion by Democrats and Republicans, should we approve or not approve this, but without any kind of support from this council or any future councils, I just don't ever see it coming up on the ballot. So if you want to wait to 2019 and not see it again, as my crystal ball says, that's fine. But I'm here to support putting that on the ballot. I think that the people should have that opportunity to say yay or nay, and each side could run their case, make their case, for it or against it. Simple as that.
The concern I have, sir, is as a governing body, when you make a resolution, you set things in motion. And in order to put something before the electorate, if you say that something needs to be put before the voters, if it doesn't make it to the November election, if it's not on the Secretary of State's desk at 4 p.m. on August 4th, you have still set in motion the fact that this issue needs to go to the voter. And if it doesn't go in November, you have now committed to a special election. I see your concerns, and I see that there are definitely issues that have to be addressed in terms of how the Charter Review Commission needs to be created, or how it needs to function, or how it needs to be made up. However, rushing this important election law in a period of 2 weeks is not a service to our voters at all.
Wait a minute, didn't you
It's a
just say that
disservice.
there was plenty of time to get this on the ballot?
I did not say plenty of time, ma'am. I said it's within your purview. This, if you vote tonight,
Right.
then it goes to the General Assembly. The General Assembly, it has only 2 weeks left in their session.
I'm still
Wait,
confused, but it doesn't
yeah, I
go to
am
the
too.
General Assembly until after there's a vote.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, if you are voting tonight,
No. The only time it would go to the General Assembly is if we put if the motion were to pass, and Mr. Gavin was to have to make up a question, or in conjunction, the two of you would make up a question that would then go to the Secretary of State before August 4th. If the voters approved or disapproved, if the voters approved of the question and made them nonpartisan elections, it would then go to the General Assembly for approval.
in order to be placed on the ballot, sir, it has to go through the General Assembly. That's exactly the process that I outlined, and I sent to the town administrator, and I sent to Mr. Gleason as well. It goes to the General, this vote that you take tonight, this resolution that you create, goes to the General Assembly, and then it goes to the Secretary of State's office. That's
So-
exactly how the change to the charter was done for the town clerk's position.
So
And
wait-
that began in February. If I'm incorrect, Mr. Gavin, please correct me.
I believe a local question like this would not need, for example, the police station, a bond referendum, you needed to get General Assembly.
Right, because it's
bill,
money.
But I don't believe we need.
This did not need to go to the,
It's like
Because we're not spending money.
the last referendum, the police bond referendum required a bill passed.
and they were done jointly together. That's probably why.
Well, this type of resolution, I don't believe, I didn't look at the issue, but I don't believe that it requires to go to the General Assembly within the next 2 years.
Well, then there is a time frame, but it does set off a clock the minute that you do that. And if there is plenty of time to get the resolution together, then you can, but please don't.
Well, it doesn't sound like you, I mean, you do have an opinion on this. You say you
No, I'm
say
asking.
you have no opinion.
I
but
have no
you
opinion
are
on
giving an opinion.
No. I have no opinion on nonpartisan elections. I serve all voters, and I serve all candidates, regardless of what party designation they have, and I think that all of you sitting there have experienced the way that our elected officials are served. I have no opinion on that. The Board of Canvassers is concerned at the rapid pace of this very important legislation. This is an election law, Ms. Pedro. This is a core value.
I think there's someone else wants to speak.
I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Steve Butler, 48 Cajun Lane. Thank you, council members. The reason I wanted to stop by tonight is, unlike what this lady said, with all due respect, I don't think this is rocket science. I've been serving the Navy for 41 years, 6 years as a U.S. Marine, the rest of the time working at Naval Underwater Warfare Center. Most civilians have no idea of how implicitly difficult the Hatch Act is. You don't even have to have a violation to be in problems with the Hatch Act. Just the impression that there's a violation can put you in harm's way, which means we have a fair amount of people in this township that work for the U.S. government. There's 5,000 people at the detachment that I work at Naval Underwater, between civilians and contractors. 5% of that population is 250 members who have kids, families, whatever. I have 3 generations in this town, myself, my son, my grandson. And so you're asking about, will people run? Tell you what, folks, I'd run in a heartbeat, except I can't, okay? Under Hatch, I can't. I can't even come up here and take an impression that I'm trying to influence a party from one side of the ledger or the other, or I could get booted out of a career. And they don't play under Hatch Act. You're going in a hot flash, okay? So nobody crosses that line. People in this township that have legitimate concerns are actually afraid to come up here and voice an opinion because they're afraid that they could be conjured up as trying to impress a Democrat, a Republican, an independent. So I would suggest that a lot of our township here doesn't really participate. I believe in it takes a village. We don't have the whole village here. We got Democrats, we got Republicans, we got independents, but we have a whole population of people that can't be involved. This would give an opportunity for those people to be involved. Middletown's already adopted this, Newport's adopted it. We're hearing, well, it's bad, it's good, it's indifferent. Let's face it, folks, I think participation in government's fallen off in all sectors, okay? Because people find it difficult. What you folks do on a day-on, stay-in basis is a challenge. But we face challenges in government every day, but they're secluded. We can't bring those out into the mainstream. I got 4 pieces of property here in town. I pay a fair amount of taxes, like you folks do. I'd like to be able to influence that process. And I think it's only fair. And in terms of Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't see where it impacts the party people at all. Nobody's going to tell me if I'm a Democrat and now there's a nonpartisan election that my Democratic Party's not going to help me, or my Republican Party's not going to help me, or the Independent guy's not going to spend his $200 and try to get elected, because he's going to continue to do that. So all I'm guessing and asking is a fair and equal playing table. That's all. And as far as people wanting to be involved, they either step up or they don't. But you're going to be faced with the same thing in elections, Democrat, Republican, independent, nonpartisan. Because you could find out some people are going to run, some people aren't going to run. That's up for grabs. But we know one thing, this township is going to have challenge upon challenge upon challenge. I think we have a lot of educated people that work on a day-on-stand basis in a lot of different disciplines, environmental, ocean, business. There's a big sector of people that we're not drawing on in terms of capital resources here, human capital resources, that would be a real venue on a nonpartisan basis. And even if they didn't run, I think if we had a nonpartisan government, they wouldn't be afraid to show up and be in an audience and voice an opinion, because now they wouldn't be in violation of any Hatch Act or impression of being in violation of a Hatch Act, because it's a nonpartisan community. So I'm done torturing you. I'd like you guys to go down the road, give everybody in town a shot at this, and let's see what the voters say. The charter's the charter, okay? And we can charter the bureaucracy, analysis by paralysis, and samey saying, or we can put it on front of the voters and see what they think about the whole deal. That's my impression. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Yeah,
Mr. Butler?
Mr. Butler, come on back. Ms. Jagger has a question.
I'm not an expert on the Hatch Act. So you said, so how does the Hatch Act affect?
The Hatch Act basically says, as a civil servant, because think about this from the federal government's perspective.
It's in our backup.
If the federal government workforce ever decided that they could be politically involved, they could actually flow different impressions for government, financially, whatever. So they wrote this act, which basically says, you stay out of political office, you stay out of what we believe is violation. When I say violation, if I jump on my email account and say, hey, Keith, I think you're really a great guy. You know, you're a Republican, and I'm going to vote for you. They pick up that email, you're gone, okay? So you can go out and participate, but you can't run for office. Think about this. You chose to run for an office, okay? Good, bad, or indifferent. You woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm going to be involved. You had the opportunity to do that, right? And for some reason, you're still doing it.
20 years later, I'm still doing it, yes.
I can't do that. I can't do that, okay?
No, I respect your position, and ultimately, like you said, the people should get to their vote on it. And I agree with a lot of the comments that are said here tonight. And ultimately, the people of Portsmouth should vote on this.
Right.
We may disagree on the process to how the people get to vote on it. But my question is, if, let's say you were able to win a seat on the council, are you allowed to vote on something that may affect federal land?
No, you would, no more than you could vote on it if you had a company that wanted to do business with the township.
What's that?
You would have to abstain from that vote.
Well, okay, so here's my point. Maybe because of, and it's just for clarification, and I don't know, I mean, I've been looking at this for a couple days, and I'm trying to understand.
I understand.
So, we're on an island here, our economy is heavily impacted by the defense industry, correct?
Absolutely.
We've got Melville, where we're trying to establish, through the BRAC process, as the town body, we may or may not do something with that land down there. So, if you were sitting on the council, or two other members that have federal ties, would they be allowed to vote, or would they have to recuse themselves?
It would depend on exactly what specifics of what you were talking about.
The transfer of property, the transfer of federal property to the town.
And I would allege in a nonpartisan government here in the township, if I had nothing to do with NAVFAC, naval facilities, okay, or the people that are making those decisions, I could vote on it. On the other hand, if I'm sitting over there in the ROINC, naval facilities, and I can make an impression upon what you and the township's going to do, then no, I would have to abstain from that vote. But in most cases, most of the things that you're going to be involved with, typically in the government, and you've got the lawyer sitting right next to you, they're not going to boil down to an individual making a decision.
I'm just trying to figure out what was the purpose of the Hatch Act? Was the purpose of the Hatch Act?
The purpose of the Hatch Act was so that the government workforce would not be able to sway any individual decisions on the basis of a bulk amount of voters in one given area. Think about just Newark alone, there's 5,000 people there.
I know.
If 10% of them, 500 of them, okay, could come out politically and do something in this town, that could make a big difference. Now, on a nonpartisan basis, they'd be spread across the board. We still get to vote, okay? I still can vote. I can vote Democrat, Republican, Independent, but I cannot run for an office.
But I guess my point is if you were an elected official.
Right.
And you may have to, you potentially would have to recuse yourself for.
No different than you would
How
if
many
it
people
was your
recuse
company.
themselves anyway? I mean,
I'm just asking a question for
Yeah, yeah.
clarification,
No,
that's
no,
all.
no, but
I'm just asking a question.
In terms of those individual issues, it would be no different than if you were in an independent company. The real issue federally is that the bulk amount of people and the perception to the taxpayer that you would be influenced by a specific party. You know, the deep state that we hear on the news all the time, or the undeep state, or the left, or right, or the middle of the road, whatever they are, everybody's got their own bag of tricks. The difference is if you're a federal employee, the bag of tricks stops. There's no Hatch Act, there's no involvement, at least as an elected official. Nonpartisan, you can do that.
Thank you for the clarification. I wasn't.
Clearer or?
No, again, I don't understand the whole process of the Hatch Act, so.
Either do I, but, you know, I don't have a choice.
Sounded pretty good.
No. They give me a check every 2 weeks, so I have to understand the best I can.
That would be something we would probably be worth investigating. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia entry here, which is the depth of my investigation. It's an act that was passed in 1939, whose main provision prohibits employees in the executive branch of the federal government, except the president, vice president, and certain designated high-level officials, from engaging in some forms of political activity. It doesn't really specify what that political activity is. So
Definitely office.
Right, so if you run for office, you're forbidden by the Hatch Act.
Well, not only that, if you were to campaign in the workday on the taxpayers' dollars, you're in violation of the Hatch Act. Anything that's notoriously in violation of the Hatch Act.
So does removing R's and D's suddenly allow you to run for office?
Yes. Yes, nonpartisan, they look at.
Because that's political activity.
No. In fact, the ex-mayor of Newport works at Newark with us. Keith would be aware that his brother works with us, okay? And I think somebody right now on the Middletown Council works at Newark. Okay, so no, you can definitely run for office. And you're right. I
ran for senator from Utah in 2012. He got elected, and then they had to overturn the results of the election the following year. But it turns out he was, after all, on appeal in violation.
Well, he probably was in violation when he ran, and what did he run as? Did he run in
It doesn't say.
Yeah. Well, if I were to get caught with a bag of cash from the Democratic committee on Newark while I was running on a nonpartisan election, I probably would have a problem.
Well, I would hope that would happen regardless where the bag of cash came from.
I don't know. I'd have to check with a doctor or lawyer to see where the bags of cash are. I don't have them.
Mr. Fitzmaurice.
I'm sure I won't be that amusing. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. I'd like to expand the coverage of the Hatch Act, because the Hatch Act does cover many employees of state government as well. If you receive, as I understand it, I'm certainly not an expert, but if you receive a majority of the funding in your department from the federal government, then you cannot run for public partisan offices. And I will point out, I don't know for certain that this is the case, but I believe it is, majority of the money in the $9.6 billion proposed budget comes from the federal government. So, this is a real issue. And obviously it bears more strongly upon the departments of government, which take a lot of federal monies, but it does apply to everybody in that department, unless they can somehow wall themselves out of that. So I will say that there have been members of this, citizens of the town, that did not run for office on this council who were covered by the Hatch Act in state government. And so this is not theoretical, this is a fact. And there have been others, many others, number of others that I've talked to that haven't run because of the restrictions on by the Hatch Act. So A little history, a little quick history. I proposed to the Charter Commission a proposal that was similar to this one that you have before you. It would have eliminated, I was aiming at the straight party ballot measure, in other words, that function, and it also would have eliminated the party identification for council and school committee members or candidates. And it was defeated in the committee, widely based. And with this, be as delicate as I can, both parties didn't like it, and that's why it was defeated. So if the council chooses to send this to a charter review committee, it has to have some level of instructions to the charter review committee so that this thing can survive and come forward to you for a legitimate debate in public. So just a thought, just my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. McDade.
Thank you, Mr. President. John McDade, 65 Gormley Avenue. And as a member of the Charter Review Commission, which has taken some heat this evening, I want to push back a little bit on the characterization of it. Yes, there were a lot of voices on that Charter Review Commission. Yes, there were some people where there were both members of a family were on the commission, but that was the setup of the commission, and there were productive discussions over the course of a year, one of which was about this measure. And it seems to me that it deserved that amount of attention. So I would hope that the Town Council will support the motion that's currently on the floor. But that's not what I got up here to say. I got up here both as a Democrat and as an expert in communication theory. That's what I did my doctoral work in. I taught for 7 years before I moved to the private sector, where I worked in communications for 20 years. I worked at a corporate identity firm where we specialized in creating branding. And I want to show the council something. You all know what's in this can. I could take this can anywhere in the world, and you will know exactly what this can contains without having to drink it, right? I don't have to ask. You know. Now let's take this can. What's in that can? Is it soda? Is it water? Is it beer? You don't know. What you are asking the voters of Portsmouth to do is to drink what's in this can without being able to look inside. Because that's what you're doing. You're taking away the brand equity that's involved in the D or the R that goes next to a candidate's name when they stand in that booth. And I talked to my son about this, who is a first-time voter. He will be voting for the first time, hopefully for me, on Wednesday in a nonpartisan election for the Portsmouth Water and Fire District. And he said, as a first-time voter, he appreciates having a little information when you're in the polling booth, because that is a complex process for a first-time voter. You would be taking this away from them. If you're going to ask voters to drink what's in this can, they deserve to at least have the same kind of attention paid to that question that was paid to it in the previous iteration of the Charter Review Commission. And I would just like to add one thing. I think that at least one member of the council needs to recuse themselves because of a conflict of interest. And that's David Gleason, whose wife, Karen Gleason, was a one-time town councilor and is employed by DCYF, which is covered by the Hatch Act. And therefore, it is a foreseeable consequence, which is the language of the statute, that she may run again and would benefit from having a nonpartisan election in which she could run. So I therefore ask, through the chair, that Mr. Gleason recuse himself from the vote this evening.
Well, that's Mr. Gleason's prerogative. I can't force anybody to recuse themselves. I can only give advice, but I like your can analogy. However, over the past, and I'll just do it in 10 years that I've been here, the D cans and the R cans are not all the same. And just by having an R or a D next to your name does not necessarily let you know what you're voting for.
That is true. It is fair to say that not every D and not every R ascribes 100% to all of the platform elements of their respective parties. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. However, there are core values that are associated with both the D and the R platforms. And those core values are something that voters can rely on. Not every particular policy position, but the core values. And taking that information away is taking something from the voter. We need to balance the interests of candidates, and I respect those people who want to run and who are bound by the Hatch Act not to do that. I understand that that's a constraint, but that's a constraint that you willingly entered into when you accepted federal service. You have to balance the interests of those candidates against the interests of the larger group of voters in Portsmouth.
I would hope that on a local level, that most of those people's core values, D, R, I, Q, X, Y, Z, are to do their best for the people of Portsmouth and make all of the decisions based on the facts that are in front of them that are the best decisions for the people in Portsmouth, not because I happen to think one way or another on an abortion issue, which is not necessarily a core value of either party. I mean, even that's not a core value.
That is a fair point, but it is still true that you're using the word best for Portsmouth. Best for Portsmouth is not a value-neutral statement. And what one thinks is the best for the town is going to be influenced by your core values, by the way you look at the world, the way you look at taxes, the way you look at the role of municipal government. Those are issues that are core to the Ds and the Rs.
We'll agree to disagree on that one. I don't think there's core values in either party anymore. I think there's two, they've been hijacked, let's just put it at that, by the far left and the far right. And most of the bad information and misinformation you see out there comes from both the far left and the far right. And those core values that may or may not, in the center, are probably a lot closer than what you and I are thinking about. That's my own personal opinion.
I think we can agree to disagree, but I think you have to agree that taking away these labels is removing a piece of information that voters currently have.
But you're only taking away that label on the actual ballot when you step in.
That is
and I would
correct.
hope the voters of Portsmouth are more educated than just going in there and saying, oh, he's got an R, he's got a D. She's got an R, she's got a D.
I don't think anyone is saying that. I think what we're saying is that that is one element that people can look at.
Agreed. Any questions for Mr. McDade?
Does anything in either one of those cans kill anybody?
It's air, so I hope not. They both sounded empty to me.
They were in fact empty. That is not a political commentary.
Thank you, Mr. McDade.
Thank you.
In the interest in just keeping you informed, because that's what I do, I would like to distribute this. It's a guide to the Hatch Act for federal employees, and it will outline what is allowable and what isn't, and I just would like to distribute that.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Mr. Katzman?
Mr. President, members of the council, I'm Len Katzman, 162 Spring Hill Road. I have been an active participant in Portsmouth's government and politics and electoral activities for 15 years. I'm also a member of the Association of Democratic City and Town Chairs, where I have the opportunity to talk about electoral systems with my peers in municipalities around Rhode Island. And as you all know, I am the chair of the Portsmouth Democratic Town Committee. First of all, I say I love the can analogy. I used to teach trademark law, and I tell people the difference between brown cola flavored sugar water and Coca-Cola is $80 billion market cap. That's the power of brand. I also wanted to say something about some previous remarks about the allegedly unwieldy nature of prior charter review committees. I was a member of that 2013-2012 charter review committee. It was chaired very ably by Sal Carceller, if I recall. Very even-handedly run. It was an open process. Anybody who wanted to join that committee joined it. If people became frustrated and stopped coming, that's on them. But most folks stuck around, and we had engaging, productive conversations. I was also a member of the 2003-2004 Charter Review Committee. That committee was appointed by a Republican-controlled council, President Peter McIntyre at the time. And that was also a very large group of people. They appointed all who applied. So I just want to dispel any idea that something askance happened back in 2012. They were following exactly what happened in the prior process. The agenda item before you is, should you ask the town of Portsmouth to include a ballot question on the election for November for disapproval of an amendment to the Portsmouth Home Rule Charter allowing for nonpartisan elections in Portsmouth? The simple answer is no, because you don't know what you're voting on. Let me explain. The charter was changed last November 2012. A little over 5.5 years ago, and the ballot questions presented to the voters to change the charter were first vetted by a charter review committee that spent a year researching the various issues, getting input from experts. We had our registrar of voters come, who was Madeline Pensack at the time. We had people from outside of town, experts in their field, talking about land use issues and other matters that came before the charter review committee, getting input from all, and everything was discussed and debated at great length of the pros and cons. Charter change questions on the ballot tend to pass. If you look at the record of charter questions on the ballot, voters tend to pass them by large margins. Voters should trust, and I think by and large this is why they pass, voters should trust that the town council is doing its job with due diligence. Voters should trust that if a charter change question has reached the ballot, it has been vetted. And I'm telling you tonight, this question has not been vetted. With all respect to everyone who's testifying before you tonight, none of them are experts in election law. None of them have done research. Sorry. It's okay. I like acoustic guitar. One of the proposals from the 2012 Charter Review Commission that did make the ballot was to have charter review every 8 years rather than every 10 years, as was previously the case. Section 103 of our current charter states, the council shall appoint a charter review committee at 8-year intervals beginning in 2019. The council shall appoint the committee in January of the year prior to a regular election, so that would be 2019, regular election in 2020. The charter review committee shall present recommendations to the council for review and approval. The 2012 Charter Review Committee also did examine this specific question. And in generating the final report of the Charter Review Committee that was presented to the Town Council, draft read, and this is from the Charter Review Commission final report draft, the proposed amendment was for provision of nonpartisan elections. The proposal as presented would not prevent Democratic, Republican, moderate, cool moose, libertarian, or other party candidates from running for office as a ticket or team, or campaigning and fundraising as party candidates. The result of the amendment would be to prevent the registrar from designating the candidate's party affiliation on the ballot, thereby depriving the voter at the polling place of what many consider important information. Of particular concern was that participation in elections is declining nationwide, and various studies have shown that party involvement in elections serves to increase voter participation. And so the conclusion of the Charter Review Committee was that anything that served to decrease voter participation or deprive voters of information should be avoided. So tonight's proposal should, without question, be submitted to a Charter Review Committee come next January, where the lengthy and thorough research into the issue can be done. What might that research be? Yes, Mr. Gleason? I'm sorry, I'll go through the chair.
That's okay. No, go ahead and finish, Len. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Everybody else does, so. What might the research be? Does this look substantial? This is what I found. These are peer-reviewed journal articles on the topic of nonpartisan ballots versus partisan ballots. This weighty stack is what I found after spending literally 1 hour and no more. I typed nonpartisan elections, in quotes, into a journal search and came up with about scores of pages of results. This represents like the first 3-ish pages. This one is, I'll just tell you the titles of some of these so you can get a feel for what the types of things are out there. Teams Without Uniforms, the Nonpartisan Ballot in State and Local Elections. This was published in Political Research Quarterly on behalf of researchers from Indiana University, Loyola Marymount University. And what this, as you can see, all of these things are detailed with data, and some have mathematical formulas in them for statistics. The conclusion here, we find that nonpartisanship depresses turnout, and that in nonpartisan contests, voters are this is important, rely less on party and more on incumbency in their voting decisions. This is another one. The impact of issue voting on local nonpartisan elections. This is published in State and Local Government Review. Central holding is central finding is this shows that issue voting can have a substantial impact. A party can adopt an issue as their own and use it as a proxy for party labels, and issues can be fabricated to drive voter decision-making. Published in Western Political Quarterly. By the way, the research in this goes back well into the 1940s. This is just more recent. Race as a salient factor in nonpartisan elections. Ethnic affiliations become, according to a number of observers, an important means of organizing political behavior when party label is absent. This is a common theme. Republican advantage in nonpartisan elections. This is published in Political Research Quarterly from 2007. The researchers are from American University, Northern Illinois University, and Indiana University. There's widespread speculation and often spouted by pundits that nonpartisan elections favors Republicans. This research paper explores that using data from New York State to determine whether that is true. What they found is nonpartisan elections tend to favor minority parties, be they Republican or Democrat. So, depending on where you live. Party and incumbency cues in voting. Are they substitutes? Again, a research paper from, this is Quarterly Journal of Political Science, 2006, from researchers at MIT, Columbia. A common claim in the literature is that as partisan cues decreased, voters attached themselves to the next available piece of information, incumbency. So again, a paper indicating that now I just want to point out, I'm not saying this is good and you should do partisan versus nonpartisan or bad. What I'm saying is this is information you're probably not aware of. No subcommittees of yours have reviewed this type of information. and you'd be making a decision to put something on the ballot before the voters, that voters will tend to assume you have vetted.
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What hour did you pull that up? Did you pull up all this information while you were sitting on the Charter Review Committee years ago?
This?
Or
Oh, no,
you
no,
pulled
I
it up
did this
tonight?
over the weekend.
All right. So was this type of information utilized in the Charter Review Commission?
So this type of information, so I did not champion that issue when I sat on the Charter Review Commission. I championed lots of other issues, and this is the kind of information that I would have brought to the committee to try to provide persuasive information. What I found on this issue in the Charter Review Committee was that there did not seem to be a great deal of support to embrace it. There was some talk about what was going on in Middletown and Newport, but we did not really dive in. Now, what I would suggest is a town council impanels a Charter Review Committee, usually with no further direction. You could certainly provide, and by the way, we want your opinion on partisan elections versus nonpartisan elections. Because to be candid, there's no amount of research that I could pull up and discuss with you tonight that I would then tell you is, I have the answer. Because this isn't my field. Elections and voter behavior. I certainly have some collected wisdom over the years of working here in Portsmouth. But big questions like, what drives voter behavior? Councilmember Pedro and I were in a recount once upon a time. And at a recount, you can see people, you can see the paper ballots. There were ballots where citizens of Portsmouth voted for both her and I. And in my mind, I couldn't imagine someone with a political philosophy where they would vote for both of us. And yet, in black and white, there it was. And so I don't claim to know what drives voter behavior. I only claim to know what the Portsmouth Democratic Town Committee stands for. And yes, we do have values. And if you go to portsmouthdemocrats.com, you can read our platform. And people do. And what I'm suggesting by mentioning that, I'm sure the Republicans have their platform on their website too. People inform themselves about what the candidates are and what the parties stand for and what they're saying. But people are busy. And down ballot races always get less votes than the top of the ticket because people go in to vote for the Senate race or the governor's race or whatever reason is bringing them out to vote. And while they're there, they see a ballot and it has all these other races. And so as some of the, my plan was to read all of these to you.
My plan was to go home over there.
And I've sat where you sat, so I respect that. But what I will say is there's actually a fair amount of scholarship on, in the absence of party labels, what people use as what's called low-cost information, because it takes time, and that's considered an economic cost, to educate yourself on what the candidates are, who they are, what they stand for. And like you said, Mr. President, I hope that the voters of Portsmouth are well educated and know who all the candidates are. Sadly, I believe that many times that is not the case. I have stood at polling places every 2 years since 2004. I stand outside with cards that have the names of and people say, oh, who's running for the Democrats? That's somebody who didn't know before they took my card that has the name. So there are voters who want to know who are the Democrats and who are the Republicans. And I am absolutely certain that some people voted for Mr. Gleason because he is an independent. And without party labels, the general public would have no way to distinguish an independent from a Republican from a Democrat. I respect that there are issues with regards to Hatch Act and other items, but this is a question of amending our structural foundational document, our charter, and it deserves thorough discussion and input from people who know what they're talking about. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I just want to point out.
I have one comment. Mr. Gleason has a
Sure.
comment. I would think that the person that voted for both you and Ms. Pedro thought you would work well on the council together because you would see two sides of the story and they would be better represented.
And that's a perfectly valid crystal ball in hindsight, sure, but who knows?
And that one person who stood between you, who knows?
Well, there you go. There you go.
So my only comment is, you can still hang out at the polling place and have a list of all the Democrats and all the Republicans to hand to those people that are walking in to vote in a nonpartisan election. It doesn't banish you from doing that.
Of course not.
My question to you is, did you have from the Charter Review Committee, did you by chance have your notes as to how the vote went on that
You know,
motion?
I certainly
Yeah.
don't have that here, and I could not find it online,
Yeah.
but I know that all of our notes and minutes were passed on to the clerk, so
Sure.
that information
I know I have
exists
that
somewhere in a
information.
vault, probably, but, so that information is out there.
There's a fear, again, you know, my crystal ball here, and I've never used this crystal ball before tonight, is that the next Charter Review Committee will not make it to the public again. And I want the people of Portsmouth to know that I think that they should have this opportunity to vote yea or nay, and not have a roadblock called the Charter Review Committee in the
Let
middle.
me, first of all,
That's my
I respect that opinion. I think it's wrong, and here's why. The council remains free to put whatever they want on the ballot. Certainly, the Charter Review Commission does its hard work. We're talking about people who decide to dedicate very large numbers of hours over the course of a year of their lives to this work. These are good people. Ms. Harding was one of them. I was one of them. It's inappropriate to just write that off as they're just going to shoot it down. Yeah, we know what they're going to do. That's not how the Charter Review works. And first of all, you can put it on the ballot anytime you want. But second of all, I'm here to tell you tonight, you don't have enough information to understand what changing from partisanship to nonpartisan will do. You cannot say, yeah, I know about a thing that happened in Middletown a few years ago. That's all I need to know. You wouldn't make a decision about surgery because you know somebody who had a surgery like that a few years ago. No, you get all the information you can. What I'm suggesting is you're proposing doing surgery on the charter. Let's get all of the information that's appropriate. There are 4,181 registered Democrats in Portsmouth as of today, according to Madeline Penzac, who's filling in at the office.
Jackie would be the...
Well, actually, it was Madeline I spoke to on the phone.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
she's still keeping good tabs on you, huh?
Part-time.
Learning the kinds of things I have to learn for in September and
There you go. And there are 2,735 registered Republicans. Those people, those citizens of Portsmouth, deserve to know which are the Ds and which are the Rs. And there are 7,397 unaffiliated voters. They also deserve to know who chooses to affiliate with what party and who chooses to not affiliate at all in the voting booth. Because, frankly, people are very busy living their lives. They trust that a democratically elected representative form of government will do the right thing for them. They're not... And also, I just should point out, there are 65 moderate party voters. I'm sure they're happy I mentioned them.
No Cool Moose?
No, I don't think Cool Moose is still a recognized party. Yeah.
So, Mr. Katzman, I respect your opinion, but I disagree.
Fair enough. I'll just close by saying, in some sense, this type of charter change that you're proposing, will it lead to something better or worse? I submit, Mr. President and members of the council, that you really do not know the answer to that question. And voters should trust that if a charter change question has reached the ballot, it has been vetted. And this proposal has not been vetted. It should go before a Charter Review Commission in January as our current charter directs. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Katzman?
Thank you. Mr. Katzman, I appreciate all you brought here tonight. I'm glad that we both agree. We actually agree. You say, no, we shouldn't go forward. with this. I say that I think this town needs to have this investigation by a commission. So I think we should do something, other than you say vote no, I say vote yes. Something needs to move. I think it needs to be vetted because Jackie is right, the canvasser is right. We don't know enough. It's too late that this didn't come in February, because I think this could have been on the ballot by February. You know, this could have been on the ballot by February if we had this in February. I don't want to see a free-for-all. 35 people apply, although Middletown doesn't have very many more people than they typically have. I think this town needs another look-see by another group of people, and hence why we have so many independents. There's a motion on the floor right now that I'm not sure that I support. That was made by you to put it into the commission, I thought, by Mark.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
It's still on the table.
It's still on the table. Yep,
It's still on the
discussion,
table, so I'm not getting old. I didn't have.
Nope, you're right, still on the table.
That's good. I think we need to move forward and have a public body decide what this change means, not whether or not it was on. We need the answers to the facts of the analysis, not necessarily the charter change, because there's the mechanics behind it also. But I do support nonpartisan elections, not at the pace we're at.
Anybody else for Mr. Cashman? Mr. Roberts?
Peter Roberts, 80 Armhart Avenue. I am in support for this because I think when you go in there, you look at what the R and the D is and everything else, it's the same thing as having a lever. People are going in there just to vote for something. If you don't know about somebody, you should not vote for them. I learned this as a child because my uncle would pick me up and take me to the polling places and people who are running, and Claiborne Pell was the first one to teach me. This lever, don't pull it unless you know everybody that's on it. If you don't know what they're all for, leave the lever alone and just vote for the people you want. My whole life, I don't think there's ever been a time when I voted completely for one party. And I'm a registered Democrat. And I have voted for many independents and many Republicans. Because they're supposed to tell us what they're for. They're supposed to go around and hand material out to us so we know what it is. We have times in here when people can come in and debate, okay? And that's when you ask the serious questions, all right? Of what, like the Poor Sox. I don't want my tax money going to the Poor Sox. They're with people who are millionaires. But there's different people who want to do this. And that's what I want to hear them tell us. So I know who I want to vote for. And I don't need the R or the D there. I need to know what they're going to do when they're in office. So that's why this should be there. Because otherwise, you see the R's, the D's, and everything else. But when you go into polling places, if you don't know who they are, then you shouldn't be just doing it because there's an R there or a D there. No. So eliminate that when you go in the polls. Because all the rest of the time, they can advertise. All right? But there's so many of them who do not do that. And the things they do say doesn't cover the whole thing. So that's baloney. Put this through so that when people go in there, they vote for who they have studied and know about. And let's do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vikevich.
John Vikevich, 119 Hummock Avenue, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. So I did not cast my vote a year and a half ago for any of these council members due to your Rs or your Ds. Okay? All right, so that's number one. 7,000 plus unaffiliated voters in Portsmouth is more than 4,000 and 2,000 of the other kind of Ds and Rs. And all I'm going to say is that if it was a binding referendum, then if it did get on the ballot for November, we'd have to do something in 2 years. But Canvasser Schultz has always been my guiding light. And if she says it's too soon because of the brand recognition that both Mr. McDade and Mr. Cashman talked about. So my position is, I'd like to see I'd like to see a non-binding on the ballot, referendum on the ballot, because that doesn't mean we have to do it. But that takes, I'm just suggesting, that just takes the voters' pulse, and then the Charter Review Commission. But if the Charter Review Commission starts in January of 2019, how long do they take to finish?
It would be a year.
So that
It would be 2020 when the
Okay,
questions would go.
so I want to go with what Jackie said about the timing on this and the vetting. Again, I don't vote for somebody based on their Rs or their Ds, okay? I vote on the person, and I know all of you, and I know your qualifications, all right? And that's why you are sitting up here representing the town of Portsmouth, okay? The voters spoke, and the voters said, yeah, we want you guys up there. I do remember a couple of councils many years ago. I've been coming here quite a bit. We had 1 Democrat and 6 Republicans, and that was always it was always a very contentious council meeting, all right? You know, because that 1 Democrat had to try to sound like 7 Democrats, all right? So what I'm getting at is, if Newport, Middletown, and Tiverton did it already, and I'm just curious, what was their motivation to get it done as quickly, or when they did it, you know, I don't have a problem, and if we can't see it for the ballot for 2018, then the Charter Review Commission works on it, and then it's approved for 2020, and that's a presidential year too. But it's all 1 year is I thought the Charter Review Commission sometimes took a lot longer than 1 year.
12 months. The way it's set up and ready now, yeah, 11 months.
I do support...
January to January.
I do support nonpartisan elections in Portsmouth, but I do support it within the time frame that our canvasser tells us we should do it in. As far as the brand recognition and the vetting, I just think that it's only on the ballot, am I correct? It's only no Rs, no Ds on the ballot.
Correct.
But if you want to be a Democrat, you want to be a Republican, you can walk around with a palm card and say, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, right? Okay.
Right.
That's just making sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, since it's been about an hour, since the motion was made, can you please read it back?
To refer the question to the Charter Review Commission in 2019.
So it wasn't to yay or nay this vote, it was just to refer. Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Gleason.
If I may.
Sure.
It was brought up that I should recuse myself. The gentleman was that works for the Navy base. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Mr. Butler.
Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
I want to first off thank you for how you addressed the Hatch Act issue. Mr. Aguirre questioned, the potential recusal in the future, and one of the things that I have always thought, right or wrong, is that recusal usually hinges around whether there's a financial benefit to whatever you're voting on. Mr. Kessin chooses not to vote on our bills because he has a son that works for a contractor that works for the towns. That could be debated whether he's potentially going to put money in his pocket or not, but I think a lot of times people recuse to stay to err on the side of caution, if you will. There is no financial gain for me if my wife decides to run again for any political office, and I'm not going to recuse myself from this vote. I would like to just say that the gentleman that said he runs with a certain code of ethics for Democratic Party was the one that used to call my wife Tail Gunner Gleason in his blogs.
And more.
And more. And, I think it bothered me a heck of a lot more than her. She's a lot thicker skinned than myself. She's probably proud of that name. But I think that represents the kind of character that somebody's trying to present that you have to have as joining, being a Democrat. And I feel bad for you folks as a result of that. But I just wanted to say that I think that was very unprofessional. And there seems to be something against her for whatever reason. But I will not be recusing myself from this vote. Thank you.
So the motion is to refer this as an item for discussion for the Charter Review Commission in 2019. Next January.
I've got one more question of the canvasser. I'm not a sir, I don't work for a living anymore. Are you against a ballot question that's non-binding, just to get a temperature?
I'm not against any ballot questions at all, sir. I came here solely to request that the issue be given the same kind of consideration and vetting that all of the issues that have been put before this council have been given.
And I understand, and I stand in the same shoes you're in. I say, yes, we need to move forward with this, but I don't think without a temperature measurement from the community in a non-binding ballot, that would be the average public.
That would be entirely up to this council.
As a starting point to gather the data that we would need to understand in the same charter commission, because I was in the 2008 and 2012.
Well, I just get a little disturbed that, again, that the assumption that there is a commission that will not function properly, because I don't believe that at all. I work for a board, and I've seen all the commissions, so I believe that they will do what they need to do.
It's not that the commission doesn't function. I think the commission functioned very well in both instances in the infancy of me being involved in the town. It's a vote of the electorate on whether or not they want to see as part of the data set, like having a survey. And I was wondering what you thought about that.
There are a variety of ways that you can gather information from the voters of this community, and you have effectively done that on many occasions. If you so choose to put a non-binding or a binding issue on the ballot, the Board of Canvassers will support it and do what we need to do to have it placed on the ballot in a timely fashion and presented to the voters as you see fit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
We could do.
Mr. McDade.
Mr. President, I would just submit that a non-binding ballot item is not properly noticed on tonight's agenda.
And I understand that.
It says ballot question, doesn't say whether it's binding or not. I would refer to Mr. Gavin, but I don't, if the council decided to make it non-binding, it wouldn't, it says ballot question.
I don't think it's an open meetings issue, but I would want to look at the law. I don't recall any previous, just off the top of my head, any previous non-binding local referendum questions, and I'd want to take a look at the law. Council has the authority to take a look. I said that.
Okay.
Mr. President, council members, very briefly, my premise of my talk before was that it's bad to ask the voters to change the charter without giving them proper information, all the information. It doesn't make it any better to ask the voters non-bindingly, do you want to change the charter? And by the way, here's the same lack of information. So binding, non-binding, you're still asking the voters to weigh in on something that a body of people have not had the opportunity to properly vet.
But that goes on the assumption that the people who are going to the voting booth aren't going to do their homework to figure out what it is, just like they do for individual candidates and other referendum items.
I understand that, but you saw how much information I had.
Mm-hmm. But
voters are not, this is what I said before was, ballot questions tend to pass. If you look at ballot questions that have been on the ballot, going back decades here in Portsmouth, well, not decades, well, yeah, decades, going back to the first charter in 72, ballot questions tend to pass because the voters rightly assume that a council is doing its due diligence and is putting questions before them that have been vetted. And in most cases, that's true. The questions have been. Back in 2012, the charter change, there were a slew of charter changes. I think there were 9 or 10 changes. They all passed by large margins. And as much as I would love to believe that most of our, what do we have, 13,000 some odd voters?
And 2, give or take.
Spend as much time as I do, as I know you do, in informing themselves on these matters. Most people are busy living their lives, taking care of their kids, working their jobs, and they trust that government is doing the right thing. And so what I'm suggesting is you need to do the right thing and have this properly vetted.
Okay. Mr. Butler, one last thing?
Steve Butler, 48 Cage Lane. I'll be brief. I'm hearing the charter versus a vote. I think the vote trumps the charter all day long. The vote comes from the taxpayers. I'm hearing a lot about, well, these things just automatically get passed if they're on a ballot because people think they were vetted. I'm thinking that's not the case. People don't vote in a vacuum. They look at things typically as what they mean to them individually and the people that are supporting those concepts. You may have an idea today that I think is great. He may have one tomorrow. I don't really care what party you are. I care exactly what you talked about, Mr. President. This township and what's best for this township. I don't care if you're a D, a Coca-Cola, a blank can. It means nothing to me, okay? And Coca-Cola is suffering right now. As a matter of fact, they're trying to sell colored water because Coca-Cola's on their way down the tubes because nobody drinks soda anymore. Okay, so we got to change venue on a day-on, stay-on basis. You got a fairly well-educated community here of voters. I think put it in front of them and let's see what they say. Then if we have a charter issue, then let's go back to the charter issue. But I really believe, at the end of the day, the people that come to that ballot box and pay the taxes and want to drive this town forward, they should be given an opportunity. And frankly, I don't want to get into the politics part of this, but I think some people come with a motivation to stay status quo, okay? Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's a reality. So let's deal with the reality, but let's give the voters an opportunity. They say no, it's no. We still part friends. But I agree with exactly what you said. This is about our town. This isn't about parties. It's not about Coca-Cola cans. It's about what we do on a day-on, stay-on basis to try to make this a better community to live in. And I think, again, it takes a village, and we're missing a big part of that village. When we talk about 7,000 people that aren't an R or a D, those people are thinking too. Part of what they're thinking is, I'm not going to be a Coca-Cola can or a blank can. I'm going to be me. Okay? I'm done torturing you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I forgot it again already. Basically is to refer this question, motion on the table is to refer this question to the Charter Review Commission, which is fine. I think we should do that as well. I would be in favor of doing a non-binding referendum if the council so sought to do that. Now, I can't talk anymore. There's a disease in this house tonight. So, on the motion to refer this to the Charter Review Committee, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-3.
Mr. President.
Mr. Gleason.
I would make a motion that the town of Portsmouth includes a non-binding ballot question for the November 18 election for approval/disapproval of an amendment to the Portsmouth Home Rule Charter allowing for nonpartisan elections in Portsmouth if it meets the scrutiny of the town solicitor.
Can you do that before the next meeting? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-3. So if you can get us that by next week for the agenda, and then we'll have an official answer on the 25th. That's 2 weeks from today, right? Okay. We're going to slide on to future meetings, which...
No, we're going to do correspondence.
I am...
Motion to receive and place on file.
Yard signs. Research recovery.
Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Pedro. Sorry.
Well, I just want to read since Mr. Crosby put this letter in here, he obviously wants to, he's requesting that the town be part of, town council be part of the town's efforts to enforce the Portsmouth yard sales ordinance and littering ordinance. And he wants us to publicly remind our citizens of some regulations. So I'm just going to read this letter on camera so that we can support Mr. Crosby in trying to make these known by the public. This is from Gary Crosby. This is the time of year when outdoor events and yard sales are commonly held activities here in Portsmouth. It is also the time of year when we see a proliferation of temporary signs advertising such activities. Signs which all too often remain in place or fall to the ground as litter long after the event has concluded. In order to reduce visual clutter in our community and ease the burden on town staff, I respectfully request the town council be part of our efforts to enforce Portsmouth's yards sales ordinance, littering ordinance, and the sign provisions of our zoning ordinance by taking the opportunity to publicly remind our citizens of the following regulations. 1, it is unlawful to conduct a yard sale without first obtaining a yard sale permit issued by the Portsmouth Police Department. 2, no person may conduct or allow to be conducted upon their property a yard sale more than twice per year. 3, no yard sale for which a permit has been granted may last for more than 2 consecutive days. With regard to yard sale signs and signs advertising other temporary events, the Portsmouth zoning ordinance prohibits all off-premise signs, except those allowed by special use permit. So technically speaking, all of the temporary signs we see advertising such events around town are a violation of ordinance and subject to fines. This is of course nearly impossible to adequately enforce with our limited town staff. However, requiring these obsolete signs to be taken down after the event is not. All off-premise signs must be taken down immediately at the conclusion of the event, or zoning and/or littering violation notices may result. Fines for violations are calculated for each offense, and each day of the existence of any such violation is deemed to be a separate offense. So
please clean up after yourself.
Mr. President, if I could just comment, I would like to say, I know Gary's not here, but I want to thank him for putting this together. For full disclosure, him and I had this discussion. The first time I ever stood at that podium, I had 60 signs in my hand that were picked up by myself after yard sales. And it's not a problem that's going to go away. You know, unfortunately, Gary is the guy that has many, he's sitting there at his desk juggling. He's the guy that has to go out and pick up all these signs. When I say, hey, Gary, there's a whole bunch of signs down in Common Fence Point that people just refuse to take down after 2 weeks of having the yard sale. They all are illegal. We kind of look the other way, but, you know, it's a problem that just keeps going on and on. And I was hoping somebody from the Portsmouth American Citizens Club would have been here, because I like to single them out because they never take their signs down. And I really would like to praise St. Barnabas, because they're actually putting signs on, you know, it's actually illegal to put a sign on a telephone pole. That's in our sign ordinance as well. We kind of look the other way. So thank you for listening to this. I was going to have this carried over for further discussion, but I think that we've tried to make our point that people should have the yard sales, but pick up after they're done. So thank you for letting me make that public announcement.
Thank you, Mr.
All those in favor of the motion to receive and place on file? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now we can go on to future meetings, which will be Thursday night at the middle school. We'll have Wednesday night, the 13th.
I'll go Thursday.
You can go, yeah. You can come here Thursday and learn about LEDs. Wednesday night, June 13th, 7 o'clock at the Portsmouth Middle School in the Little Theater. And then we'll have our next regularly scheduled council meeting on June 25th here at the Town Council Chambers. No need for any other business. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Wow, you guys couldn't get that one out fast enough. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes